Advanced Studio Classroom is on the air. Thanks for joining us in Advance Today, your window on the world. And today we're going to talk about a subject that most of us are interested in. It has to do with food. So be sure and stay tuned and find out about it. We're glad to have someone in our class today who is from Singapore, because our article today on page 34 is about something in Singapore. So welcome, Francis, as a Singaporean. Yay! Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm really glad. I'm Francis. Welcome to this article. I'm really glad to be here.
Now, Francis, you studied audio engineering and things in the States and stuff, but how long did you live in Singapore before you went to school in the States?
I lived there about when I was 30 before I left for the States.
Really? So you've been there a long time.
Yes, I have.
So you know something about the article.
I do. It's really close to heart. Yeah, I love the food, and we're talking about food today.
That's why we're glad you're here. And, of course, Linda's been on our program a lot, but I don't think that she has been to Singapore. Have you?
No, I haven't yet. I really want to. And I think being on this panel and talking about this article will encourage me more to go there.
Well, that's true. I have been there several times, and I have eaten at some of these places. And everybody talks about the food in Singapore because it's such a good mixture of many different cultures.
Yes, I hear the food is excellent.
It's excellent. That's true.
It's
and you'll
the best.
agree to that.
You have to come try it. Yeah.
So we're going to find out more about it and learn some good words today as we study this article. And it's about hawker food in Singapore. Now, this word hawker, does that mean anything to you when you hear the word?
Well, what comes to mind is somebody selling something, like they're usually yelling for you to come and buy their goods. So a hawker is a vendor, someone who is selling food in a public place.
Could you say sometimes that the people in the night markets are kind of like hawkers too?
I would consider them to be hawkers,
right.
Yeah.
Little kind of shops and things.
With a stall.
So hawker food in Singapore, it talks about it being a culture because it's a certain thing that Singapore has. And it says it's worth preserving and devouring. What does that mean?
Well, hawker and food in Singapore is the thing that makes it special is that it is in one place. You can go out to different stalls and buy a variety of foods and come back to the table and enjoy the food, and you can devour the food, eat it and at your pleasure. And that's one thing that's special about Singapore because it's very different in Taiwan. Because Taiwan is different stalls, but you have to go. But in Singapore, it is actually one huge
big place.
You can buy just many different kinds of food,
kind of like an open door restaurant.
Yeah, like Malay, Indian, Chinese, and then eat and then come back to the table and eat it, and they'll deliver it.
He's excited about it.
I'm excited. I'm like drooling. Yeah.
Right. Well, we're going to find out more about it, and Linda, you're going to examine that when you go down there.
I will.
Everybody else
yes.
too. So let's find out more about it today by reading the very first section on page 34. So are you all ready?
Yeah, we're ready.
Let's go.
Hawker food in Singapore. A culture worth preserving and devouring. There's little that can prepare an outsider for the onslaught of food in Singapore. Every stroll through this city, shrouded in tropical heat, is interrupted by open-air food centers, coffee shops, and restaurants vying for your stomach's attention. Seek sanctuary inside an air-conditioned mall, and you'll be greeted by sprawling subterranean food halls that seem to span the distance between subway stops.
So to begin with, we talk about the fact that there's very little things that can make you really prepared and ready for so much, an onslaught of something. And when there's an onslaught, that means there's so much that you can hardly imagine it. And it says this food in Singapore. Now, when we eat food, we sometimes just eat a little bit. But when you eat Singapore food, you might want to devour more.
Right. You want to consume it, eat it quickly because it's so delicious. And another way that we use devour, it doesn't have to be something that's tangible like food. It can be knowledge. Here it says it's a culture
Devour
that we
the
can
lesson today.
devour. Yes, we want to devour the lesson and gain as much as we can from it. Yeah, we can devour books, by reading them at a very fast
A
rate.
lot of them, too. Good. Okay. So when you go to Singapore, you go around, you walk around the streets, which is really very nice, interesting, and you stroll through the streets. Stroll just means to walk leisurely. You're not in a hurry like you're going someplace. You're just sort of walking around, and you walk through the city, and the city is really nice, but it's kind of shrouded with tropical heat, which means what?
Covered. It has this.
It's kind of warm down.
Yes, it's very hot down
We
there,
have
right?
just lots of malls, and we're all sheltered. Everything's covered, so there's a lot of air-conditioned places everywhere.
That's true.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is a warm country. That's true. But when you walk around, then you see these open-air food centers. It's kind of like open-air restaurants.
Right. Yeah, it's not fully enclosed.
No.
Yeah.
Coffee shops and all restaurants. And these say that they are vying for your stomach's attention. Your stomach wants them. And what does it mean to vie for something?
Compete. So all these places are competing for your stomach or your eyes for them to be attracted and go buy it to feed your stomach.
Come here, eat this, buy that.
You'll never stop eating in Singapore.
Oh, boy. I'm telling you, for people that like to eat, that's a good place. And it says here that you want to seek sanctuary inside the air-conditioned mall. In other words, it's kind of hot outside. And it's so nice to go into a place to eat where there's air conditioning.
Oh, yes.
So they do have some places like that. Right?
Yeah, every MRT station actually has some sort of hawker center there. Yeah, air conditioned, and you can do a shopping there at the same time, and then eat it after that. Yeah,
you're going to get homesick while we're talking about this. Yeah, but you'll be greeted by these sprawling, you say subterranean food halls, which means they're underground, right?
Yes.
The basement floor or something like that.
Exactly.
And they seem to span the whole big distance between the subway stops, so you always can find one. Go someplace, and there's another one. There's another one.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah. Well, Singapore's connected very, very well now with the subway stops. So everywhere you can actually find any kinds of just
so we won't be
food,
hungry if we go to
No,
Singapore. Won't go hungry there.
you won't go hungry in
Doesn't sound
Singapore.
like
Yeah.
it. So can you actually walk from one subway stop to the other, just through the mall?
Some in the city you can, so they're
Okay.
connected. Yeah,
Okay.
and there's actually shopping in between those malls,
Okay.
underground shopping malls.
You just
So-
have to go check it out.
Yeah,
Yes, I do.
You got to go check it out. Yeah.
It sounds fun, doesn't it? Right? Well, and there's some photos here that we'll get to later. We'll talk about the pictures. But let's go ahead and read the text first and look at the next page when they talk about this as being a cultural staple. A cultural means something that has to do with that country's habits, and staple means a regular thing that they have, right?
Right.
So let's read the next section.
A cultural staple. Dining out is a way of life in Singapore. 1 in 4 residents says they eat out daily. Many choose food centers, which aren't your typical variety mall food courts, but keepers of a proud local cuisine and tradition cobbled by generations of the city's Chinese, Indian, and Malay inhabitants. Outside my hotel on a stretch of Killiney Road, I can choose between world-class satay, chicken rice, curry laksa, prawn noodles, fishball soup, dim sum, Indian prata, chicken biryani, beef rendang, or Cantonese barbecue, all for about the same price as a 6-piece chicken McNugget meal at McDonald's.
Well, so dining out or eating outside of your home is a way of life in Singapore. And there's a reason for that. There are a lot of places to eat, and also a lot of people work. So it seems good. About how many people do eat out daily?
1 in 4 residents say they eat out daily.
Wow. Well, they like these food centers because why do they like the food centers, do you think?
I think the different options of food, like we talk about, like even in Killiney Road, we have like chicken rice. We have like meat, like kebabs looking. They call it satay in Singapore.
Satay.
Yeah. They're like meat kebabs, and you can dip them in peanut sauce, and you can eat this any time of the day. It doesn't have to be in the dinner. It can be lunchtime. You can even have it for breakfast. So that's kind of a really tempting thing sometimes for me.
Well, that's true. But it says that this is cobbled with generations of the city's residents because there's Chinese and Indians and Malay, and so they all have their own kind of food, and they kind of put it together. So that's why it makes it so interesting. It's not just like maybe you could eat Cantonese or you could eat Shanghaiese or something, but this is a combination.
Right. It's not just one
so that's
nation
good, isn't it?
culture. It's like many
chicken
different.
rice is very famous. So many people like, Singaporean chicken rice.
Yes, there's so many versions of it now, but I still like the traditional way to make it, Like it tastes like I go to find the store, especially in Singapore, and it's one of like the treat for me.
Well, I kind of like satay. They have world-class. But what about curry lots? What's laksa like?
Laksa.
Everybody likes that.
Oh, that's really good. That's like made with like coconut milk, and then it has like chili in it, and you can put prawn, like shrimp, and then it has like bean sprout, and it's just like it's like a really tasteful soup, but with noodles.
Yeah, I love laksa. Anything with coconut is
Coconut
delicious.
is always good. Well, yeah, that's true. And then it talks about the Indian type of style. I don't know. What about chicken biryani? What is that?
Biryani, it's more like like the chili, like it's a way the Malays make it.
Okay.
The seasoning and then the spices they use, especially.
A little bit too spicy for me, maybe. I like the dim sum type, but I can get dim sum there too. And what else do they have that sounds good?
The rendang is good. Beef rendang is good.
What would you like to try when you go there?
I would love to try the chicken rice. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, of course. That's one thing you have to try. Well, what is this Indian paratha? Is that something special?
Paratha is just like the flat piece of like dough. They kind of fry
bread
it.
kind of.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's also called roti.
Roti.
Right?
Yeah, we call it roti prata. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, there's so many kinds, and Cantonese barbecue and stuff. And the thing is the price. That's what's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. It's not that expensive.
No, not at all. It's about the same price as a 6-piece chicken McNugget meal at
Can you
McDonald's.
imagine?
It's got to be bigger than a 6-piece. The price is the same, but it looks bigger than a 6-piece nugget meal. Yeah.
I'm sure
And that
you get a
sounds
lot
good,
more.
because you say, well, all these different kinds of food, I bet they're expensive.
Yeah.
But really, they try to keep the price down so that
That's great.
you can get a variety and they're not that expensive. So that sounds pretty good, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Yeah, still.
You can try all different sorts of stuff.
So you
without
get
spending
ready
too
and
much.
see which ones you're going to try. But don't forget to start with the chicken rice. That's
Okay.
very popular.
Yes.
And a little saute on the side. Now, I like saute because saute you could get chicken and beef.
Mutton.
And many kinds, yeah.
Lamb, yeah.
It's just meat on a stick.
And
Yes.
seafood too, right?
Yeah, you can get seafood alongside.
And they have a
sometimes.
nice little sauce that goes with it.
Very nice, yeah. You can have like cucumbers, a bit of red onion, and then sometimes you can even order like sugarcane juice with it. So it's like really
Sugarcane
sweet and then the
juice and
salty.
pineapple. Oh, my goodness. Sounds good. So these are things that are staples to them. Now, we call, like in America, bread is kind of a staple and potatoes and of course, rice is always a staple.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it means the things that you are used to all the time.
Yeah.
You can find them in many, many places.
Yeah.
Right. They're
Right.
basics
Yes,
that
basic.
we always have.
So that makes it pretty interesting, doesn't
This kind of is like definitely a good staple culturally for Singapore, especially if you want to come visit, if you've never seen the food, it's like you want to really just want to taste it now.
Well, there's so many things to see in Singapore. I like to go to the night zoo and the birds and everything there. But the food, everybody always has to eat when you go someplace. So you will be happy to eat all the kind of food, don't you think?
Yes, I look forward to eating
to
good
that,
food.
right?
Yeah.
Make a name of it.
Even after the safari, you can still find food in Singapore, so
Yeah,
you're
that's
good.
true. You can have it all the time. So, So we're talking about this hawker food, and it is a culture worth preserving to keep this variety of things together. And they're always looking for flavor and so forth. So the next section says a quest for flavor. What is a quest?
It's a search. So if you're on a quest for something, you're searching for something.
Okay, so there's some pretty good words in here, too, that we can learn in English. So we're on page 35. Let's read the section about a quest for flavor.
A quest for flavor. Straying from my neighborhood has been even more rewarding. There were the piquant chili crab and salted egg yolk prawns at the East Coast Seafood Center that looks out onto the Singapore Strait, where at night the tankers and cargo ships are anchored so close together they look like a neighboring city. At Golden Mile Food Center, I took my first bites of Peranakan food, a centuries-old cuisine born out of the intermarrying of Chinese and Malays. The cuisine, which requires meticulous preparation, is slowly fading from fashion, along with the few remaining chefs who know the recipes by heart. You've only scratched the surface, I was told by K.F. Sito, an evangelist of Singaporean food culture and founder of the Makan Sutra Food Guide.
Now, this person who wrote the article, David Pearson from the Los Angeles Times, said that he strayed away from his neighborhood. It says, straying from my neighborhood has been even more rewarding. So when you go there, it's not a very big place. It's very compact, but there's all these different neighborhoods, and they're all kind of different, too.
Yeah.
Indians and
there are different races in Singapore, so it's really a good mix. Yeah.
So you don't want to just stay in one place. So going without where your actually hotel is, then you can find some other things. What did he find?
Well, he found food, more food, and it included piquant chili crab and salted egg yolk prawns at the East Coast Seafood Center.
Sounds like hot food to me, though.
Yes.
If you like hot food,
spicy,
hot chili.
Yeah.
Salted egg yolk prawns. Oh, my goodness. Well, have you ever been to the East Coast Seafood Center, Francis?
Once or twice. My mom brought me there. It's actually a place that's on the East Coast, and there's all the seafood centers are there. So you can actually choose from a variety of the restaurants. And then you can pick out the seafood that you want, and then you can sit and then watch the ocean. And the tankers are there. So that we talk about in the article, there are actually like cargo ships that line up. You can actually watch them at night.
That's one thing I like about Singapore, because you're right by the ocean, and you can be right out there and be eating by the river or by the ocean.
By the ocean,
and it's always quite nice to eat there.
It's really beautiful, and it's not that hot anymore at night. Yeah,
that's true. Right?
And I imagine the seafood is very fresh.
It is very
caught
fresh.
That day.
Sure,
Yes, probably they're all freshly caught from the catch of the day. So yes.
Well, they did talk about this place, this Golden Mile Food Center, but they said this man who wrote the article, he said he took his first bites at this, well, how do you say that one?
Peranakan.
Peranakan.
Yeah, they're
what is Peranakan?
They're a mix of Malay and Chinese culture. They're from so they have a mix of Chinese and Malay style of making dish. So definitely very tasteful.
So when we think of intermarrying, that means that you marry somebody of a different culture, and this food is also mixed culture. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So this is a mixture of Chinese style and Malayan style. Yeah. And so they call that, say that word again?
Peranakan.
Peranakan.
Yes.
Peranakan.
Peranakan.
So when you go there, say, I want some Peranakan food.
Yes.
Oh, so you know what
you're in
is.
For a treat when you get to try it,
Yeah, I look for it.
And that's good because it has a combination. Intermarrying means it has some of each in there.
Yes.
And one thing about this cuisine, what does cuisine mean, actually?
Cuisine just refers to the food, the diet of the culture.
So this kind requires what they call meticulous preparation. Now, this word meticulous is a good word. Some people are very meticulous and some aren't. What does it mean to be meticulous?
To be very careful, to be very detailed. So if
Yes,
you're meticulous, you pay attention to details.
And Veronica dishes take a long time to make sometimes. Yeah, they're not
That's
easy.
true.
The season very long, and it takes time to prepare, and it takes passed on from generations actually. So, yeah.
But see, it's not as popular as it used to be because it says it's slowly fading from fashion because it's kind of it takes more trouble, and people don't want to bother doing all that.
But nowadays, more people are also finding different ways to make Puranica food easier and less troublesome, so that people will still enjoy the food. Yeah, very much so.
I've seen it some places like here, even in Asia, they even have robots doing some of the beef noodles.
I don't know about robots for Puranica food, but that would be possible for sure. But,
yeah, they would.
Yeah, it's a tedious process for some of the spices.
It takes time.
Yeah, if you can simplify it, that will make it easier to pass down, and people will want to do it.
Yes, for sure.
But you want to still, keep it good.
Yes.
So, but it takes a lot of time to make any kind of good food, whatever it is that you're trying to make. That's
for
true.
sure.
But it says here that you've only scratched the surface, and I like that phrase because that's a very common expression that we use. If you don't know it, you might want to mark it. They scratch the surface.
Right. You've only dealt with a small part or a small bit of the situation or whatever it is. So if you've only gone to maybe this food center, you've only scratched the surface. You've only tasted a little bit of what Singapore has to offer. There's so much more out there.
For sure. Yeah.
Well, and this, he was told this by this man who writes books and things about this, and this KFC talk, and it calls him an evangelist of Singaporean food culture. Yeah. I think that's interesting to use that word because we often think of evangelists as preachers who preach.
Right.
But that just means a person who is very zealous about telling something, right?
Yes, very enthusiastic, very committed to spreading what they believe and sharing it with others.
So this man here, he's very zealous to tell people about the food.
Yeah,
culture.
Sito started a book and called Makan Sutra, and it's based on hawker food actually in Singapore. And he rates them actually by how many chopsticks. And a lot of people have read it, and they go find out where this food is in different parts of Singapore, and it's really some of the places I don't even know. So actually finding out, reading the book of the different Peranakan food, Indian food, Chinese food.
So you can find out where they are.
Yeah, there's different kinds of chicken rice stores. So I didn't even know there was so many different stores in Singapore.
That's true.
So it'd be a good guide to
have. It's a good guide.
So they have this food guide. And,
yes.
And the name of this is what?
Makan Sutra.
See, I'll let him say all those.
We have the perfect person.
In English, we might say it a little differently, But anyway, I want to see the food guide when you get there.
Yeah.
So how many chopsticks can you get? Like the most chopsticks can you get?
I'm not sure. I think the more chopstick, the better.
Okay.
So makan is actually a Malay word, actually. If you don't know, it means to eat, actually. So it's derived off that word. So when we say makan in Singapore, it's like to just like, hey, let's go eat. Where to makan?
Let's go and eat.
Yeah, that's a really so.
Learn a little lesson on the side. See, well, you know what? The photos here. If you look back at page 34, they talk about people at one of those popular food courts, and it kind of looks like what you call these places we have in department stores, food courts. It looks like that a little bit, but they have so many different kinds of food, and it says here that most people do like to eat out.
Yeah,
but it also says that there's so many people there that it's hard to find a table. So what do they do? Read that second picture where it talks about Singapore.
Well, they use common articles such as tissue packets to reserve their table in the really crowded food courts.
Because you don't dare put your purse down. Somebody might steal it.
Right.
And what are you going to put on the table? So you put down some. But if somebody wants a table, do you think they could go and move that? They wouldn't.
No, that would be rude.
They wouldn't
then.
do that. Huh?
No. Well, if you don't know, if you're new in town.
Yeah, because we might not know, and we might say, "Oh, somebody left this here."
I was told once that that seat was reserved, and I thought it was just free tissue paper on the table.
Yeah, right. See, but
if you
you're
don't
not
know.
a foreigner there. You live there, so we might make that mistake.
Yeah. Usually, I'll leave like an article of clothing or something that's not too valuable,
like
an umbrella. Yeah,
right. Umbrella or something like. Don't leave your purse there.
No, don't.
But tissues are a fun way in Singapore to leave reserve your seat and in food centers.
Yeah, because, everybody wants to go there and they might lose out the place. They might not have a place.
It gets
to
really
sit.
crowded. Yeah.
Well, what about the bottom picture? What does it say about that one on page 34? Who's this Tilok Ayer? It's a story of Victorian cast iron market building. Do you know about that?
Yeah, it's a really famous one. Yeah.
How do you say that?
It's called Tulok Aye. Yeah, it's actually a different name, actually. So it's actually like old Lao Basa. It's like an old market.
Okay.
Yeah, and they renovated it, and it's one of the center in the business
It's
district.
very popular
Very
now.
busy. It's one of the busiest one. At night, they have a separate stall that opens up, and they close one street down just to sell more food.
So put that on your list.
Okay, I will. I'm making a list right now.
Put that down.
Yeah,
on
they
your
got
list.
satay there.
Take your magazine with you. Mark it up. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it is interesting because, everybody likes to eat, but I think Chinese people, they know about different kinds of food, and there's so many, there's Cantonese and northern food and Hakka food. But to get all these mixtures where you have Indian and everything, it's even more of a combination. And so it's fun to go to Singapore just to eat here, right? But there's a lot to see there, too.
Yeah, I would like to see all the other sites as well.
3 days. 3 days is not enough to finish eating, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there's these popular noodle stands over here and curry laksa and all this kind of spicy noodle soup. Oh, my goodness. You can see pictures of it. Just might make you hungry. And they have takeaway food out here in Cantonese-style restaurant. You can just about get everything, it looks like, doesn't it?
Yeah, you can almost get a full buffet out of this whole thing. Yeah.
Well, we're going to find out more tomorrow. We've just scratched the surface today.
Right. We've
So
only scratched
you can come back again, Francis, and use your enthusiastic telling us about the food.
Yeah.
And we'll be here waiting to find out, won't we?
Yes, we will.
So we'll see you tomorrow when we finish the lesson and find out more about the hawker food and anything else we want to know about Singapore.
Yeah.
We can ask you tomorrow.
Sure.
See you, everybody.
See you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.